Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this honey bunny crochet hook case. This is the perfect project for springtime and this is a really fun one to make. So I hope you guys all enjoy this video and let's get into it. Okay, so for this project you are going to be needing 5 different colours. So I'm going to be using this white yarn. This is a double knit Aran yarn, while the others are just double knit, so slightly thinner, but the main colour is white that I'm going to be using. This is all acrylic yarn as well. You're also going to be needing a dark brown colour, and I've got about 50 grams of this. And then you're also going to need a lighter brown colour, and I've got about 25 grams of this. And then I've got about 25 grams of this pale yellow yarn, and about 25 grams of this baby pink colour. Today I'm going to be using a 3.5mm hook to make the actual background panel. If you're going to be using the same thickness yarn for all of them, then you're only going to need a 2.5mm hook. I'm going to be using the 2.5mm hook for all of the smaller sections of the crochet hook case. You're also going to be needing some scissors, a sewing needle, a pink button. You can use any colour you want, but I've got just this pink button. And you're also going to need some black embroidery thread and a needle for the embroidery thread. And you're also going to need a lighter colour embroidery thread. I didn't have white at the minute, so I've just got this kind of pale pink, but it works just fine. Okay, so I'm going to be starting off with the main panels. You're going to want to make 2 square panels, and I'm going to be starting with my main colour and my 3.5mm hook. Like I said before, if you're using the same weight yarn with all your other colours, then you don't need to use a bigger hook. This is just purely because I'm using a Aran yarn. It's slightly thicker than the double knit for the other components of the hook case. So I'm going to be starting off with my main colour, and I'm going to make a slip knot. Like so. And then I'm going to be making a chain of 45, and that is 44 stitches plus 1 for the turning chain. You can make your hook case wider if you want to, or shorter, but I'm just going to be making a chain of 45. Once you have your chain of 45, you're just going to be flipping the chains over so that you're working in the back bump. You don't have to do this, but I personally prefer the look because it allows you to crochet into a stitch around the border fully, whereas when you just crochet into the chain itself, you aren't left with the same stitch, and it's not as easy to crochet into. So again, you don't have to do this, but I just prefer the look of it. So here is how the chain normally looks, and then when you flip it over you can see these back bumps. So just like we would normally go into the second chain, we're going into the second back bump from the hook, and I'm going to make a single crochet like that, and then I'm going to make a single crochet into each back bump all the way across. So I'm literally just going into each individual back bump and making a single crochet. And by the end of the row, you should have 44 stitches. Okay, so once you have reached the end of the row, you're literally just going to turn the work to start the next row. So this is now row 2. And then I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. And I'm going to be weaving in this tail as I go so that I don't have to sew it in later. So I'm going to kind of pick up the tail over the hook, and then I'm going to carry on with my single crochet as normal. So if you can't really see your first single crochet, it's because we've turned the work and the working yarn is kind of in the way, but it's this stitch right here, this first one. It's just kind of blocking it. So you're just going to want to make your first single crochet, like that, and then I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. So this is literally just rows and rows of single crochet. There's nothing else to it really. It's just a flat, rectangular panel. And I'm going to be doing 28 rows of single crochet in total. So I'm literally just going to continue that, and then I'm going to come back up Okay, so I've just finished doing all of my rows. I did 28 rows in total, and now I'm just going to fasten off. So I'm just going to chain 1 and cut the yarn. Just going to pull that through. Okay, and now we're going to do a border colour. You can do your border colour in whichever colour you want, but I am going to be doing a light brown border colour. And since I used a 3.5mm hook for the main panel, I'm going to use the same hook with this yarn, even though the yarn is smaller, just because I want all the proportions to be the same. If I use the smaller hook, the stitches are going to be really tight and it might cause the work to curl. So you just kind of want to keep everything the same. Obviously when I do my other sections for the inside of the hook case, I'm going to be switching to my smaller hook. So I'm just going to take my light brown yarn and I'm going to make a slip knot. So I'm just going to take my slip knot and I'm going to basically insert the hook into the top left corner. And I'm just going to pull the slip knot through and then chain 1 to attach it. So in each corner of the rectangle, I'm going to be making 2 single crochets, and then in between each corner, I'm just going to do 1 single crochet. So since we are in the corner, I'm going to just make 2 single crochets in that same stitch, and I am weaving in these ends as I go. And then I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch across, and then when I get to this corner, I'm going to make my 2 single crochets. Okay, so I've just reached the corner and I'm just going to make my 2 single crochets into that corner. So this is what we have so far, and now I'm just going to kind of tilt the work on its side, and now I'm just going to make single crochets all the way down this edge. So I'm just kind of finding the next space to crochet into, and I'm just going to make my single crochet. I'm just doing this all the way down. Doesn't need to be perfect, just make sure that you are kind of evenly spacing out the single crochets. Now I've reached the third corner, I'm just going to make my 2 single crochets into that corner. And then I'm just going to repeat the same thing. I'm going to single crochet across the bottom and then 2 single crochets in this corner, and then I'm going to single crochet all the way up. So I'm going to meet you back once I get to this first corner again. Okay, so I've just finished my last row of single crochet and I've reached the corner. So now I'm just going to slip stitch into that first single crochet. So as you can see, we have the chain 1 right here and then the first single crochet. I'm going to insert my hook into that first single crochet and I'm going to make a slip stitch like that. And then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. Okay, so this is what the panel should be looking like once you've done the border. So you're going to want to make a second panel, so that is 28 rows of single crochet in your main colour, and then you fasten off and then you just make single crochets in your secondary colour for the border, and that is 2 single crochets in each corner. And then when you get to the first corner that you attach the yarn to, you're going to slip stitch into that first single crochet that you made and then just fasten off. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to make the components for the inside of the hook case. Okay, so we're now going to be working on the stitch marker grid section. You're going to want to take your baby pink yarn and your 2.5mm hook, and I'm going to make a slip knot. And I'm going to make a chain of 22. Okay, once you have your chain, you're just going to flip the chains over and we're going to be working in the back bumps. So I'm going to start off with my first row, which is going to be a single crochet, and I'm going to make my first single crochet into the second back bump from the hook. So I'm just going to make a single crochet, and then I'm going to make my single crochets into each back bump all the way across. So once you get to the end of the row, you should have 21 single crochets. So I've just finished my last single crochet, and now I'm going to move on to row 2. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn the work. And we're basically going to be making a mesh stitch for this row. So I'm going to start off with a double crochet into the first stitch. So I'm just going to make my double crochet. And then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to make a double crochet into the 4th stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat that again. So I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and double crochet into the 4th stitch. Repeat that again, chain 3, skip 3, and double crochet into the 4th stitch. Again, chain 3, skip 3, and double crochet into the 4th stitch. Last one, chain 3, skip 3, and double crochet into that very last stitch of the row. So you should have something like this with 5 small squares, and then for row 3 I'm going to chain 1 and turn the work. And we're basically going to be repeating what we just did in the previous row. When we make our double crochets, we're going straight into that double crochet stitch in the previous row, so we're going into that V right there. And when we're skipping across these bars, these horizontal bars. So I'm going to make my first double crochet in that first stitch right there. So double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 3, skip 3, so it's just these 3 chains here, and then I'm going to double crochet into that stitch right there in that 4th stitch, and then I'm going to chain 3, I'm going to skip 3 and double crochet into the 4th stitch away, repeating that again, chain 3, skip 3, and double crochet into the 4th stitch, chain 3, skip 3, and double crochet, and then last one, chain 3, skip 3, and we're going to make our last double crochet like that. And now we're going to move on to our final row, which is row 4. We're just going to chain 1 and turn the work. And this time we are just making single crochets into each stitch and each chain. So technically we're working into the back of the work. So when we single crochet into the chain, we're just grabbing that top loop of each V. So I'm going to make my single crochet into the first stitch, and then I'm going to pick up the top loop of each chain. So I'm just going into this top loop right there, making the single crochet, and then I'm going into the next chain, just grabbing the top loop of it and make a single crochet, and then into the 3rd chain, top loop only, make a single crochet. And now we've reached the double crochet bar section, so I'm just going to make a single crochet into the stitch. So that one's quite easy because it's just into a stitch. And then we've reached our 3 chains, and I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each chain, just grabbing the top loop of each chain. Okay, so I'm just going to continue single crocheting across, 1 in each stitch and 1 in each chain loop. So I've just made my last single crochet, and now I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. And I'm going to be leaving a long tail for sewing. I'm just going to cut quite a long tail. So that is what the grid is looking like. Okay, so I'm now going to show you how to make the pockets. I'm going to make 4 pockets in total. One is going to be just a plain strip colour, and the other is going to be like blocks of like squares. So the plain colour that I'm going to be doing is the baby pink, and then the more stripy colour is going to be baby pink and light brown. So I'm going to show you how to make the pockets. So you're going to want to make a slip knot, and you're going to want to chain 8. Okay, once you have your 8 chains, you're just going to flip the chains over, make a single crochet into the second back bump from the hook, and then make a single crochet into each back bump all the way across, which will leave you with 7 stitches at the end of the row. Okay, so that's the end of row 1. For row 2, I'm just going to turn the work and simply make 1 single crochet into each stitch. I'm going to weave this tail in as I go, so I'm just making 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. Okay, so if you are doing the solid colour where you have no colour changes, then you're just going to want to make rows and rows of single crochet. So you would just turn the work and make another 7 single crochets, and then again turn the work, another 7 single crochets, all the way up until you have 30 rows in total. So for the square block design, where it's just going to be basically blocks of pink and then a block of brown above it, and it's going to alternate, you're just going to want to do 6 rows of single crochet in the pink colour first, and then on the 6th row we'll be changing colour. So I'm just going to carry on making my rows of single crochet until I have 6 rows in total, and I'm going to stop before the very last stitch of row 6. Okay, so I'm just about to finish my last single crochet of row 6, and this is where we're going to change colour. So I'm going to be picking up my light brown yarn. So I'm going to start my next single crochet. So I'm just going to insert my hook into the stitch. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. And here normally we would yarn over and pull through both loops to finish the single crochet. And now I'm just going to pick up the new colour. I'm just going to wrap it over the hook like this. And just kind of hold it there, and then I'm just going to pull through the 2 pink loops with the brown yarn like that. You can just kind of hold it there, and then you just want to pull tight on the pink yarn to kind of hold it there, and then we are ready for our next 6 rows of single crochet with the brown yarn. So I'm going to turn the work, and this is now row 7, or row 1 of the brown square section, and I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch, and I'm going to be weaving in the pink and the short brown tail as I go. So 7 single crochets. Okay, once I've reached the end of the row, I'm just going to cut the pink yarn because I don't need it for a few more rows. So that was row 7, and then for row 8 I would just turn the work and make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. Like that. And I'm just going to basically keep going until I have 6 rows of brown single crochet, and then when I get to my 6th row, the very last stitch, I'm going to start the last single crochet, and I'm going to finish the single crochet with the pink, so I'm going to switch back to the pink. So I'm going to meet you back after I have got to my 6th row of the brown colour, and now I'm just going to start my last single crochet. So I'm inserting the hook into that stitch, I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop, and then I'm going to finish the stitch with the pink yarn. So I'm wrapping the pink yarn over and pulling through those 2 loops with the pink yarn. like that. And just pull tight on the brown yarn to secure it, like that. And then I'm just going to start my next 6 rows of single crochet in pink, and then on the 6th row I'm going to change back to brown, and then I'm just going to keep going until I have 5 squares in total. So I would be ending on a pink square, so it would go pink and then light brown, pink, light brown, and then pink. So in total I would have technically 30 rows of single crochet, and they are split into 6 rows each per colour. So I'm just going to complete this pocket now, and then you're going to want to complete a solid pocket, again 30 rows of single crochet, and then I'm going to come back after I have 2 of these pockets each. Okay, so we're now going to be working on the flower pocket. So we're basically going to be doing 20 double crochets in a ring. So I'm going to start off by making a magic ring, and this is the normal magic ring. You could also make a double magic ring, or you could chain 4, slip stitch into the 4th chain, and then make your 20 double crochets into the ring of that chain. But I just personally prefer how this looks with a magic ring. So with the magic ring, I'm going to be taking the short end of the working yarn, which is baby pink, and I'm going to be wrapping the short tail over the front of my 2 fingers like this. I'm going to cross the long end behind my fingers, wrap it round, and cross it into an X like this. So it should look like this. And then I'm just going to hold the long tail with my pinky like this. So I'm just going to grab it. And then we are going to take our hook, place it under the top left piece of yarn. We're going to grab the top right piece of yarn with the hook, and we're going to pull it under the left one. So we're going to pull it like this. Okay, we're going to twist the hook like that. So I'll do that again. I'm going underneath the top left piece of yarn. I'm grabbing the top right piece of yarn, pulling it under, and then I'm twisting the hook like this. So you should kind of have, sort of looks like a letter A. And then with the string that is we're holding with our pinky, I'm just going to chain 1. Okay, and then you can just drop everything, and then you have your magic ring. Okay, so now I'm going to make 20 double crochets into this ring. So I'm literally just going to make my double crochets straight into the ring. So I'm kind of holding this together, and I'm making 20 double crochets. Okay, so I've just done my 20 double crochets. It should look something like this. And then you're just going to pull on the short tail to close the ring. And you might have to kind of shuffle the stitches around to keep the circle nice and flat. But you just want to pull on the short string. And then we kind of have like a gap between the 2 stitches. And we're going to be slip stitching back into that first double crochet that we made. So it's this stitch right here. We're going to slip stitch into that stitch to kind of join the 2 sides together. Now we're going to move on to row 2, and row 2 and row 3 are the exact same. So I'm going to start the row by chaining 1, and I'm literally just going to be making 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So I'm going into the exact same stitch that I just did the chain 1 and making a single crochet. And my advice is, because there are a lot of stitches in the circle, to avoid it kind of curling or bending, I would do the rows of single crochet with a fairly loose tension, just because this helps kind of even out how kind of dense the circle is here. If you make the stitches out on the outside a little bit looser, it reduces the chance of it curling. So I'm literally just going to be making 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. And then when I get to the 20th single crochet, after I've done that, I'm going to slip stitch back into the first single crochet. Okay, so now I've reached the beginning. So I've got the slip stitch here, the chain one, and then this is the first single crochet. So I'm just going to make my slip stitch back into that first single crochet to join everything together. And then I'm going to start row 3. I'm going to do the exact same as I did for row 2. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm just going to make a single crochet into the same space, and then 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. Okay, and then I'm just going to slip stitch back into the first single crochet that we made, and this time I'm going to kind of finish the slip stitch with my new colour. So I'm grabbing the light brown yarn. Okay, I'm literally just going to hold it on my finger, and I'm going to pull through the stitch and the first loop with the brown yarn like that. So for row 4 I'm going to chain 1, and we're going to be making 5 petals. Now the 5 petals are a sequence of 4 stitches. So into the first stitch I'm going to make a single crochet and a half double crochet. So I'm making my single crochet first. I'm just going to weave in these ends as I go. So firstly a single crochet, and then a half double crochet in the same stitch like that. And then into the next stitch I'm going to be making 2 double crochets. That's 1, that's 2, and then into the next stitch I'm going to make another 2 double crochets. 1 and 2, and then into the next stitch I'm going to make a half double crochet and a slip stitch. So I'm going to start with my half double crochet, and then I'm also going to make a slip stitch in the same stitch. Okay, so that is the first petal all done. It should be a nice little semicircle, and I'm just going to repeat that sequence all the way around. So into the next stitch I'm going to make a single crochet and a half double crochet. Into the next stitch 2 double crochets, into the next stitch 2 double crochets, and then into the last stitch I'm going to make a half double crochet and a slip stitch. So half double crochet and a slip stitch. Okay, so I'm going to be repeating that sequence all the way around. So single crochet and half double crochet, 2 double crochets, 2 double crochets, half double crochet and slip stitch, and then just repeat that all the way around. So I will meet you back at the end of the flower. Okay, so I've just reached the end of the row, and now you should have kind of like a gap between each petal. So right here there's kind of like this pink gap. And what you're going to do is you're going to kind of skip the pink stitch, and you're going to make a slip stitch into that first single crochet that we made. So not the slip stitch, not the chain one with the brown yarn, but the first single crochet with the brown yarn, like that. Okay, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off, and you're going to want to leave a long tail for sewing. Okay, so I am now going to be making the solid granny square. So I've got my dark brown yarn and I've got my 2.5mm hook, and I'm going to start by making a slip knot. And then I'm going to be making a chain of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the 4th chain from the hook. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to slip stitch into this chain, like that. And then I'm going to be basically working into this ring in the center here, this ring here. So for row 1, I'm going to start off with a chain 3. And then I'm going to make 2 double crochets into this ring here. So that's 1 and 2. And this is our first cluster. And then we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to make 3 double crochets into the ring. So that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. And then I'm going to chain 2 again and make another 3 double crochets into the ring. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to make another 3 double crochets into the ring. So that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. And then I'm going to chain 2 once more, and this time we're going to be closing the kind of square together. So I'm going to make a slip stitch into the 3rd chain of that first chain 3 that we made. So I'm just counting 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to make a slip stitch into that top 3rd chain, like that. And now we're going to start row 2. So for row 2 we're going to chain 3, and we're going to be working into this corner space, this gap right here, and I'm going to make 2 double crochets. So that's 1, and that's 2 into that gap. And then I'm going to be making 3 double crochets, so 1 in each stitch. So I'm just going into the first stitch and make a double crochet. So that's 1, into the second, that's 2, and then into the third, that's 3. So now I'm going to do the corner space, which is going to be 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and then 3 double crochets. So I'm starting off with my first 3 double crochets. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and then I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to make another 3 double crochets into the same space. 1, 2, and 3. And then we've reached the 3 stitch cluster, so I'm going to just make 1 double crochet into each stitch. So that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. We've now hit the corner space right here, so we're going to do our corner stitch, which is 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and then 3 double crochets. Now we've hit our 3 stitch cluster, so I'm going to make 3 double crochets, 1 in each stitch. So there's 1, there's 2, and then there's 3. And now we've hit our corner space. We're now going to do the corner stitch, so 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and then chain 2, and then another 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Then we've hit our 3 stitch cluster, so I'm going to make 1 double crochet into each. So that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. Okay, and now we've reached our last corner space, and as you remember at the beginning we did a chain 3 and 2 double crochets, so we already have 1 cluster in our corner, so all we have left to do is 3 double crochets and then a chain 2. So I'm going to do that. 1, 2, and 3, and then a chain 2, and the last step of row 2 is to just slip stitch into the top of the chain 3. So I'm just going to slip stitch right in that top chain. There we go. Okay, and that is what completes row 2. So for row 3, this is very similar. We're basically doing the exact same thing. We're doing our corner spaces as normal, and then when we hit the double crochet section, we are making our double crochets. So I'm going to start off with a chain 3, And then I'm going to make 2 double crochets into the corner space. So that is our second cluster technically, and then we'll go all the way around and we'll do our first cluster right at the end. So now we've reached our double crochet section. So we're going to be making double crochets into all of these stitches here. And now we've hit our corner space, so we're going to do the exact same thing as we did in row 2, 3 double crochets, a chain 2 and 3 double crochets. And now we've hit our double crochet cluster section here, which is 9 double crochets. So I'm going to make my 9 double crochets, and you might need to pull back the corner stitch a bit to reveal that first one, because sometimes it can get hidden. And then again my corner stitch, and then I would just do another 9 double crochets, and then a corner stitch, and then another 9 double crochets, and then my last corner stitch will just be a 3 double crochets and a chain 2. So I will meet you back once I've got to my 3 double crochets and my chain 2, and then I'll show you how we close the round. Okay, so I have just reached my last chain 2 section, and now I'm just going to slip stitch back into that third chain that we made at the beginning. So I'm going to just count 1, 2, 3, just grabbing that third chain at the top and making a slip stitch like that. So for row 4 I'm just going to chain 3, and we're basically doing the exact same thing that we've been doing. I'm going to start off with just 2 double crochets in this corner space. Okay, and then we've hit our kind of stitch section here. So you should now have 15 stitches, and I'm just going to make 1 in each stitch. And now we've hit our corner space, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. 3 double crochets, a chain 2 and 3 double crochets. Okay, and then we've hit our stitch section, so I would just make 15 double crochets, and then when I get to this corner I'd make 3 double crochets, a chain 2 and 3 double crochets, and then again 15 double crochets over here, and then 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets in this corner space, another 15 double crochets in the stitch section, and then when you hit your final corner space you will just make 3 double crochets and a chain 2, and then you would slip stitch into the third chain that we made at the beginning. So I'm just going to complete that now, and then I'm going to fasten off, and then that is the granny square section all done, and you're going to want to leave a long tail for sewing. So I'm going to come back when that is all done. Okay, so we're now going to be working on the bunny. So I'm going to be starting off by making the bunny's head. So I'm going to be taking the light brown yarn, and I'm making a slip knot, and I'm using my 2.5mm hook, and I'm going to make a chain of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now for all of these things that I'm going to be making, I'm going to be working in the back bumps. So I'm going to start off by making 1 single crochet into the second back bump from the hook. That's this one right here. Making the single crochet, and then I'm going to make 1 single crochet into each back bump all the way across. So I'll have 7 single crochets by the end of the row. And then for row 2 I'm just going to turn the work, and I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way across. So 7 single crochets. So for row 3 I'm going to be making an increase at either end, so in the first stitch and in the last stitch. So an increase is just 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So I'm just going to make 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then 1 single crochet into the next 5 stitches, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and then into the last stitch I'm going to make 2 single crochets. Okay, so you should have 9 stitches in the row, and now we're just going to fasten off. So I'm just going to cut the yarn, and then we are going to reattach the yarn again. So I'm going to make my slip knot, and now we're going to start row 4. So I'm just going to attach the yarn into the second stitch of the row. So where you have your 9 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I'm going into that second stitch. So I'm skipping the first one, inserting my hook, and I'm going to pull the slip knot through that second stitch and just chain 1 to attach it. The chain 1 does not count as a stitch. Then I'm going to be making 7 single crochets. So 1 into the same stitch where we just attached. So that's 1, and then 2, so you should have a stitch on either end that you have missed out. And just to make things a bit easier, I'm just going to weave this end into the back of the yarn now. Okay, so for row 5 I'm just going to turn the work, and I'm going to be skipping the first stitch, and I'm going to make 4 single crochets. So I'm going into the second stitch, so that's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I'm going to skip the next stitch and make a single crochet into the last stitch. And then for row 6 I'm just going to turn the work, and I'm just going to be making 5 single crochets, so 1 in each stitch. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then for row 7, this is going to be the final row. I'm going to turn the work, I'm going to skip the first stitch and make a single crochet into the second stitch, and then I'm going to make a single crochet into the next stitch, and then I'm going to skip the next single crochet, and I'm going to single crochet into that last stitch. So you should have 3 stitches in the end of the row, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. So we're going to be making the ears now. You're going to want to take the same light brown colour, and remember you're going to want to make 2 ears. You're going to want to repeat this pattern twice. So I'm going to start off with a slip knot, and I'm going to chain 9. Okay, so I'm going to be working into the back bumps. So I'm going to start off by making 1 single crochet into that second back bump, and then I'm going to make a half double crochet into the next back bump, like that, and then I'm going to make 4 double crochets, so 1 in each back bump. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and that's 4. And then I'm going to make a half double crochet into the next back bump, and then finally I'm going to make a single crochet into that last back bump, like that, and then I'm just going to chain 1, and I'm going to leave a tail for sewing. Okay, so I'm going to make a second ear, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm basically just going to be sewing each ear to the top of the head, and I'm kind of doing it in a downward section here. So I'm kind of sewing just this area at the top to sort of this area of the head. So when I make the 2 ears, it will look something a little bit like this, where you'll have the ears kind of going downwards like this. So you're going to want to make sure that you make a second ear, and then you just want to sew each ear to the top of the head. Okay, so this is what it should be looking like once you have finished the head and the ears, and I've just sewn the ears on. And now we're going to be working on the pink kind of body section. So I'm going to take my pink yarn, and I'm going to make a slip knot. And I'm going to be kind of tipping the head upside down, and we're going to be working basically upwards like this. So I'm going to insert my hook into the first stitch at the bottom, and I'm going to pull my yarn through and make a chain 1 to attach it. And the first row is going to be an increase row, so we're going to increase by making 2 single crochets into the first stitch. So that's 1, and that's 2, and then I'm going to make 1 single crochet into the next 5 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and last one, 5, and then into the very last stitch I'm going to make 2 single crochets again. That's 1, and that's 2. Okay, so for the next 5 rows it's literally just going to be single crochets, so I'm just going to turn the work. So I'm literally just going to be making 1 single crochet into each stitch. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn the work again and then make another 9 single crochets, and I'm just going to keep doing that until I have 6 rows in total. So I'm going to be doing it for 5 more rows. Okay, so I've just done my 5 extra rows of single crochet, so I've got 6 rows in total, and then for row 7 I'm just going to turn the work, and this time we're going to make a row of half double crochets, and we're also going to decrease. So I'm going to be skipping the first stitch and I'm going to make a half double crochet into the next stitch, and then I'm going to make half double crochets all the way across, and I'm going to stop before the final 2 stitches, so that is going to be 4 half double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I'm going to skip the next stitch and make a half double crochet into that last stitch. Okay, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off. Okay, so we're now going to be working on the arms and also the feet. So I'm going to make a slip knot, and then I'm going to make a chain of 4. Okay, and then I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into the second back bump from the hook, and then 1 single crochet into each back bump all the way across, which should leave you with 3 stitches in the row. Okay, for row 2 and 3 I'm just going to turn the work, and I'm just going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch. So that is for both rows, so I'm literally just making 3 single crochets in the row. I'm going to make a single crochet into the first stitch, and then I'm going to make a half double crochet into the second stitch, and then I'm going to make a slip stitch into the final stitch. Okay, and then I'm just going to chain 1, fasten off, and you're going to want to leave a tail for sewing. And now I'm going to show you how to make the feet, and again you're going to want to make 2 of these. So starting with a slip knot and a chain of 4, and then I'm going to make 1 single crochet into the second back bump from the hook, and then 1 single crochet into each back bump across, so 3 single crochets in total. And then for row 2 I'm literally just going to turn the work, and row 2 is also the final row. I'm going to make a single crochet into the first stitch. I'm going to make a half double crochet into the second stitch, and then I'm going to make a slip stitch into the last stitch. Okay, and then I'm just going to chain 1 and fasten off, leave a tail for sewing, and then you're just going to want to sew them all onto the body in this sort of arrangement. So you're going to want to sew the arms like this. So I'm just going to make 2 more of these now, and then I'm going to sew them all to the body. Okay, so the last step is to make the honey pot. So you're going to want to take your dark brown yarn and make a slip knot, and you're going to want to chain 4. I'm then going to single crochet into the second back bump from the hook, and then single crochet into each back bump. So you will have 3 stitches at the end of the row. Okay, like that. Then for row 2, I'm going to turn the work, and this row we're going to be changing to yellow. So we're going to start off with an increase stitch, and we're going to just make 2 single crochets into the first stitch. So it's 1, and that's 2. And then we're going to make a single crochet into the next stitch, and then into the third stitch I'm going to make an increase stitch. So I'm going to start off with my first single crochet, and then I'm going to start my second single crochet, and instead of yarning over and pulling through the 2 loops with the brown, I'm going to attach the yellow yarn. So I'm just going to insert the hook, yarn over and put up a loop. So normally here we would yarn over and pull through both loops to finish the single crochet, but this time I'm going to attach my yellow yarn. So I'm just going to pull through those 2 loops with the yellow yarn, and that has attached it. So for row 3, I'm just going to turn the work, and I'm going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch across. Okay, I'm just going to trim the small ends. So for row 4, I'm going to turn the work, and we're going to be changing back to brown. So I'm going to just carry the brown across. So I'm going to start off by skipping the first stitch and making a single crochet into the second stitch. And then I'm going to make a single crochet into the next stitch. And then I'm going to skip the second to last stitch, and I'm going to make a single crochet into that very last yellow stitch, and I'm changing to brown. So I'm going to insert my hook, I'm going to yarn over with the yellow yarn and pull through 2 loops on the hook, and then I'm going to switch. So I'm going to drop the yellow yarn and pick up the brown, and I'm just tucking the yellow yarn to the back, and I'm finishing the single crochet with the brown yarn. And then I'm going to turn the work, and I'm finishing the final row, and I'm going to complete the final row now. So this is row 5, and row 5 is just 3 single crochets. So I'm literally just making 1 in each stitch. So I'm going into the first stitch, so that's 1, into the next stitch, that's 2, and into the third stitch, that's 3. Okay, and then I'm just going to fasten off. So I'm going to chain 1 and cut the yarn, and I'm going to leave a tail for sewing, and then you just want to cut the yellow yarn as well. So I'm going to be using this bunny because I actually prefer the face that I made with. So I'm going to use this bunny for my actual hook case, because this one I didn't like the face I did as much. This one looks like an angry bunny, this one's a bit more of a kinder bunny, so I'm going to be using this one. And you're basically just going to want to sew the honey pot to the bunny. So I'm just literally going to sew back and forth with the brown yarn off camera, and then I'm going to come back and show you how we're going to sew everything onto each other. Okay, so here I have just arranged how everything is going to be laid out. So as you can see, we've got a lot of ends here, but if you just try to ignore them for the time being. So what you're going to do is you're just going to basically sew everything in this arrangement. I'm just going to sew each pocket down. So I would not be sewing across the top, because obviously you want to get your hooks in here. So you're going to be sewing down the side, across the bottom, and then back up the side. For the flower pocket here, you are just going to want to basically sew from the left petal to the bottom 2 petals all the way up to the top right petal, and you're going to want to leave the kind of section up here open because you want to put stuff in it. So you'll just be sewing, and then you'll be fastening off about here. And then same for the pocket, you're just going to want to sew down the side seam, the bottom seam, and then the other side seam, leaving this top bit open. And then for the grid, you're just going to want to sew literally around the edge, so you're not leaving anything open, but you do want to leave the gaps here open, so you only need to sew around the perimeter. You're going to want to make sure that you have your back panel, your main back panel here, facing up on the right side, so everything's neat, and you're going to leave the other back panel to the side for the minute. It is really, really important that you sew all of these sections down first before you attach the two panels together. That is the final step. So you do not want to attach the two panels and then sew everything down, because you're just going to see all of the ends at the back of the work. So you want to sew everything down onto one panel, set that panel aside, and then you're going to want to sew your rabbit. So you're going to kind of fold, so technically the panel would be folded in half, and you would sew your bunny to the center of the work. Now I'm personally going to do this with some embroidery thread. You don't have to do this, but I just personally think that it's neater that way. So I'm literally just going to sew with embroidery thread around the bunny to secure it, but I'm just going to basically sew all of this down now, and then I'm going to sew the bunny onto the other panel, and then the two panels come together and we join them. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to meet you back where we will join all of the panels together. Okay, so I've just finished sewing on the button, and now it is time to just attach both of these panels together. So you're going to want to basically have all of the right sides on the outside. So your bunny part here needs to be facing up, and then when you flip this over, your actual hook case needs to be facing up, so that when you fold it in half, everything is on the right side, if that makes sense. So we're going to be joining them together with a single crochet. So I'm going to be doing my single crochet join with the same brown yarn that I've been using, but you can use a different colour if you want to. So I'm going to basically be doing single crochets through both stitches all the way across each edge, and when I get to each corner I'm going to be doing 2 single crochets in each corner just to keep that square look. So I'm going to insert my hook into the top right corner stitch. If you're right-handed, you can start in the if you're right-handed, you can start here and then work across, if that makes sense, but I'm just going into this corner first, and I'm going to go into the other corner stitch of the back panel. So I'm grabbing both of the stitches, and I'm going to pull my slip knot through both of those stitches and then chain 1 to attach it. And then I'm going to be making 2 single crochets in the same stitch to create the corner stitch, like this. And then I'm going to just basically be making single crochets through both panels all the way down the side. So I'm just going to flip it so that you can see it a bit better. So I'm going into the next stitch of the front panel and the next stitch of the back panel, and I'm going to make a single crochet. And then again I'm going to make a insert my hook into the next stitch of the front panel and the next stitch of the back panel, and then just make a single crochet through both. And I'm just going to continue that all the way down, and then when I get to the corner space I'm going to make 2 single crochets, and then I'm just going to continue single crocheting through both panels all the way down here, and then again here in this corner 2 single crochets, single crochet up, 2 single crochets here, single crochet across, and then when I get to my last single crochet I'm just going to slip stitch back into the first single crochet that I made, and then I'll just chain 1 and fasten off. So I'm just going to do that now, and then I will meet you back after that is all done. Okay, so I have just done my slip stitch into the corner stitch, and then I chained 1 and fastened off, and then I just weave the end onto the inside section here, And the final step of this hook case is to make a loop that goes over the button. So I want my loop to be basically on this side so that it can wrap over and go around the hook. So I'm going to take pink yarn because I just want my button loop to be with pink yarn. I'm going to make a slip knot. And I'm going to attach it roughly in the center of the back of the hook case. So as you can see here, I've inserted the hook into the middle, sort of stitch at the back of the hook case, and then I'm going to pull the slip knot through, like that, and then chain one to attach it. Now depending on the size of your button and where you placed it, you might have to do a pretty long chain or a shorter chain, just depending on, you know, the button that you have. So I'm just going to basically try and make a chain that is long enough to fit round comfortably, so it needs to go all the way around the loop, around the button, and then come back and then join here again. So I'm just going to start chaining. So I've got a chain of 20, and I'm just going to see if that wraps around the button. Okay, so that's a little bit short, so I'm going to do 25. See if that wraps around. So that's a pretty good length. So I've done 25 chains, and then I'm just going to slip stitch into the next sort of stitch of this row. So right here into this brown single crochet, I'm going to make a slip stitch like that, and then I'm just going to chain one and fasten off. Okay, and then all you have to do is just weave in these tails, and then that is literally the hook case all finished. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up, and I hope you all really enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.